Now, most of these groups and artists are somehow all linked to Ice-T, Rhyme Syndicate. What role, basically, do we say Ice-T played looking back? Because I know Everlast was connected, House of Pain, right? They're connected. Everlast is connected. Is like Ice-T the main tree to all of these other groups that come out?
Ice-T was like the Godfather back then because Ice-T was the first guy from the West Coast to get like a major label record deal with Warner Brothers. And he went to New York and got down with like Africa Bambaataa and Africa Islam and all these New York guys and everything, you know. And he just got, you know, he was just like, he got these record deals with Warner Brothers and all of a sudden they're like, okay, you got a label, a Rhyme Syndicate. So Ice-T, and then he was involved in the clubs. Like I said, Ice-T was involved in Water the Bush, this like, really influential, like, you know, and that was later in his career, like way later. Like he had already been established, he had big ass records and putting out, you know, compilation projects and everything by then, you know. So yeah, so much stuff goes back to Ice-T. Yeah, he was early on, you know. I mean, like the Macola stuff is kind of separate, you know, the whole NWA movement and everything, you know, and everything that came out of that. But like all this other stuff that you're saying, Ice-T was in the mix, man. You know, he was just around and, you know, was always a great guy, you know, and it was accessible to people in the community at that time. If you were dope, doing some hip hop shit, you know what I mean, then you were probably friends with him.
Now, you just mentioned Macola. I'm sure a lot of people don't even know who Macola is, but that was they were pressing the records, but they were kind of slash a record label.
They were a label slash, well, they were a distribution company, but they would put out some things maybe that didn't have a label, more or less. But the NWAs, the LA Dream Teams, like all this like early hip hop shit out of LA, probably, I don't know about Rodney O and Joe Cooley, but I would assume most of the stuff went through Macola, a lot of it, you know what I mean? So, you know, the era that we're talking about, the 783 era, the Cypress Hill era, this is quite a few years later, you know.
Yeah, that's 783 is more like late 80s, right. Macola's early mid 80s.
Right.
Okay. Water the Bush. This place is often mentioned in the conversations about LA history. Where was this spot at, and why was it so popping?
Okay, the first place it was the Stardust Ballroom, which is where the Home Depot is on Sunset just before Western now. It was this huge nightclub. And it was actually a couple different clubs that connected. And what's crazy is these English guys started the club. You know, it had this real like, you know, cheeky, like funny name, Water the Bush. I mean, it's like, you know, it's a euphemism for like sex, right? It's like, you know, you're watering the bush, right? So, you know, so anyway, so they came up with this crazy name, Water the Bush, and it was like kind of like they were into house music and everything. They were English guys and everything, but they had this huge reverence for hip hop. So they started the club. They were doing house music and everything, and they didn't really know a lot of people. And they had done like a week or two or something, and then they met Africa Islam through somebody, and Africa Islam brought in Ice-T and Curtis Harmon and all these people, who brought in me. You know what I mean? And all these other people. And then Water the Bush reopened as a club with 3 rooms, the main room being a hip hop room. There was a house room and there was probably a live music room. And it was just crazy because there were all these people involved. I mean, they were like, we'd have meetings, it was like 15 or 20 people. You know what I mean? It was just like all these. And we had people like LL Cool J, De La Soul, Busta Rhymes perform live. I mean, no Public Enemy, nobody got paid. Everybody performed. That, you know, there was nowhere to perform in LA for these groups, period. Africa Islam had this like, I'm Africa Islam from the Zulu Nation. And the Zulu Nation had all this clout with the hip hop artists coming out of like New York at that time. So De La Soul, we got to do it for Africa Islam. And plus there was nowhere to play anyway in LA. You know what I mean? So like we had everybody. I can't even begin to tell you who performed there or did, and it was short lived. It was at the Stardust Ballroom for about a month. Booyah Tribe was our security. I mean, it was just a crazy, you know, Ice-T was a partner in the club. You know, and we had funk bands like Trulius Disgracius that were affiliated with groups like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff performing live. So there was just all these scenes of LA that kind of interconnected, you know. Marcus Wyatt, big house music DJ, was DJing in the house room and stuff, you know. We moved from the Stardust Ballroom to Hollywood Live over there on like Hollywood Boulevard near La Brea. And it lasted there for a couple months or whatever, you know, and then eventually it became a different club. They changed the name, but I'm blanking on what they changed it to, but it lasted as water to the bush for a while, and it was the era that hip hop was so new and fresh that the artists just wanted a place to play. You're De La Soul, you're coming to LA, and you don't have anywhere to perform. Africa Islam got a club, and there's gonna be 500, 600 people there. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go perform, you know what I mean? And you know, it was the coolest thing ever. You know, it was so hip hop, you know what I mean? It was like, and it was, you know, it was this international mix of these crazy white guys from England who started it, with the, you know, all these New York transplants like Islam and everything that were involved, and guys like OGs like Ice-T from LA. They brought in people like me, you know what I mean? And so it was very influential and groundbreaking. And all the hip hop clubs in LA that were true to the hip hop culture in any way, sense, shape, or form owe a huge homage to this club, because there was none before. The clubs before it that were more true to hip hop were downtown LA underground hip hop clubs that were more thrown by white people. There was like the radio, there was the Radiotron, but this was a different thing. This was a club. It wasn't some like 18 and over. It was, you know, this was like a club. You know?
Yeah, the Radiotron had kids
all
there.
ages.
Yeah,
right.
And
right.
Yeah.
Which was great, but it, you know, it's not what this was.
Now, what about, there was a spot on Crenshaw called The Good Life where they used to do a lot of battle rapping in the late 80s, I believe.
I spent a lot of time there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's right near where I live now, Crenshaw and Exposition. It's right in that little mini mall right there. Yeah, it was a very interesting thing. The Far Side was affiliated with that. The Freestyle Fellowship emerged out of that, definitely. It was a place where rappers that were really into like the art of rapping, like we call them backpack rappers now, where like would go and conquer. And there were some more street rappers that were like, you know, really into rapping, their craft. I mean, if you're a rapper, you appreciate good rapping. But it was like these kind of like pro-militant, like old school, like Black Panther type people that ran it. No swearing was allowed. So people would get kicked out because they come up in there and start. They wouldn't allow anyone that was talking like negative, like you couldn't talk about like killing black. You know, they didn't play that. You know what I mean? But you could go up there and rap, and this is where, you know, this was where rap battling was going on in LA. Like it was like the lyricist lounge kind of thing in New York. Like this was our thing like that, where like the real rappers would show up and perform. And yeah, it went on for quite a while. It was very influential in LA.
Thanks for watching StreetTV.net. If you're not subscribed, please hit that button below and click the bell to receive alerts and notifications. Feel free to comment below so you can give us your feedback, and be sure to watch the 2 related episodes to the right. If you want to support this platform or follow us on social media, visit the links in the description, and thanks for watching StreetTV.net.